All right, guys. Hello. Welcome to my homework five recording. I'm just gonna run like the first couple seconds just to show you that it's running and that it works. I'm not gonna sit here and wait for the whole thing to load up because number one, I don't have that storage in my uh, in my phone, and number two, that's gonna take forever. Um, anyways, um, yeah, that's running. Maybe it'll finish running by the time that the I finished explaining um my document, but I doubt it because it's going to be a quick explanation because I am running out of storage. Okay, so beginning is just a quick overview of the objectives. The objectives were obviously apply the kernel SVM and MLP classification algorithms to the data set that we had, which was the mini fashion data set. So the second one was that we use k-fold cross-validation, and we did this to identify the best way to rescale and re or pre-process the data. And then we also did this to identify the parameters that optimize the performance. I mean, later we're gonna the k-fold is gonna be a four. It's gonna be a four-fold. So the final one was that we had to compare the accuracy, also identifying the correlation between the outputs of the two methods. And the two methods that we're going to use in this homework assignment are going to be the kernel support vector machines and the multi-layer perceptrons. So the SVM had at least two options, and the MLP had four options. So two of them were the hidden layers, and two options for the number of hidden nodes in each of the hidden layers. So let's just go ahead and move on to the data and model setup. So the data that we used for this assignment, like I said, was the mini fashion and data set. In the README file, it says all this, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say it anyways. There were 10,000 training samples, um, and 5,000 testing samples, and they each had a grayscale image, 28 by 28 pixels, divided into five types of clothing: t-shirt, trousers, pullover, dress, coat. And all of this was provided using four CSV files, X train, Y train, X test, Y test. This is pretty standard throughout all of homework assignments, so it's nothing new here. Okay, and we use three types of pre-processes. So we did this to prepare the data. They were standard scaling, or sorry, first one is no extra scaling, so meaning there's just the data was just normalized. The second type was the standard scaling, and the third was the max absolute scaling. So SVM, start off with SVM. There were two kernels, a linear and an RBF. Um, so um, I used two parameters, C and gamma. They were both tuned during the training process, which this made it better for model performance, optimizing it. C parameter was the controlling factor of like the how much or how strong the misclassifications were penalized, and the gamma just determined the radius of each training point. Um, so the MLP, neural network, trained on the same set of features and labels. So the hidden layers that I tested were 64, 128, 64, 64, 120, and 128. And then I used Relu activation function. Also, I used the atom optimizer um, with a learning rate of 0.001. Um, and then to reduce overfitting, I applied L2 regularization with alpha values of 0.001, 0.001. Let's get to the experiments and results. So as we can see, um, SVM performed better with no pre-processing, with a 0.9026 cross-validation best accuracy and a test accuracy of 0.8856. with a C at 1. MLP performed better with the standard scaling preprocessing with a CB cross-validation best accuracy of 0.89, test accuracy of 0.896, and the hidden layer of 128. Um, so just moving on to the graphs we can see here. Um, it shows figures, all these figures, they just show the average training and validation accuracies through the different parameters combinations, labeled param combo down here. So, I see increase, the training value increased slightly, validation accuracy leveled off. Just confirm that higher C values honestly just reduce the bias, and they also increase the risk of overfitting, however. And then these two figures, 1.5 to 1.6, is just MLP models that they show that when you increase the hidden layer sizes, there was a slight improvement in the training accuracy, but the validation accuracy either like plateaued or slightly increased or decreased, depending on which one. So now we're going to just get into the scatter plots. These are pretty standard. Oh my gosh, hopefully it doesn't look like that on my PDF, but yeah, they show that there's a high concentration of blue points at the top right corner. This concentration means that there's a high confidence about correct classifications, and in the lower left corner, there's a high concentration of, let me move this real quick, of orange points, which is the other classes, showing that most models correctly assign low probabilities to other samples. Finally, moving on to the um, images for the G1, G2, and G3. Um, so something to note here, like G1, they correctly classified, so SVM correctly classified simple shapes, you know, easy t-shirt, also ones that had like simple outlines, nothing too crazy. MLP struggled with this, but um, so easy to classify for MLP, but hard for SVM, which is the opposite. So MLP came or was good with images that had subtle shading and more complex textures, and SVM struggled with this, which is these are just opposite of each other. But for both, so both of them struggled with like borderline clothing items that had like kind of overlapping features. This means that like they just some of them had like uh texture or something like that. All right, that's it. Thank you for watching.